Alrighty, so NFP, and we got a rocket ship this morning, which is quite nice. So let's see what we're up to here. I am very tempted to fade certain areas, and right now we're gonna open roughly at 69.47, which is about 40 point gap up from yesterday's close. I think a good fade, maybe for about 20 points. Okay, I think I'm gonna try it. See where this goes, especially after the previous day high sweep there. And give the stop a bit of room. I don't normally like to take positions right before. Oh. Happened here. Yeah, I don't normally like taking positions at open. Simply because the market can kind of swing in either direction just based on the volume. And this thing could pop up another 10 points for all I know. But I'm not liking what I see here. Yep, it looks like I'm gonna get roasted on this trade. YM is trying to hold here. NQ might have a little bit more to go, but it's wicking too. 7,000, 7,000. So that's another 10 points up from here. All-time high on SPX is 7,002. So it would make sense to go and sweep that level. NQ starting to pull back here. YM's going for yesterday's highs. Still a little bit of room. And then we got fish boning on the dealer's breakdown by strike. I can't say I'm in love with this, but let's see what we got here. There's a run to 93 on SPX. Previous day high swept on both ES and NQ. My pivot's at 75. 75 is quite a bit lower here. YM is still going up, but NQ is headed down. NQ is retracing quite a bit here. This looks pretty good on ES. $75. It's likely to bounce off 75 here on SPX. Just based on the there's 1,000 positions there. Am I looking for a gap fill? I don't think so. But I will be looking for another 20 points, hopefully. Let me take a look at SPX, at the VIX expiration for next week. VIX expiration for next week is the 18th. All right, so we're at 17 here. Okay. The trade looks like it's going. I might take it off at VWAP, which is the sweep of that 5-minute low. There's the 75 test and bounce. $75 test and bounce. Still quite the gap. I'm gonna check what half gap is. Half gap is roughly 69.63 on SPX. So conversion wise, 20 points, that would be about 83. Yeah, so my take profit is roughly where half gap is. All right, want to see this run through to 75 level. I will actually take it right at 87. If we can sweep that level. sticking here around that 75 pivot. If we can just spool down a little bit further, sweep that level at 87, and VWAP is just slightly underneath there. And if we can get there, I'll be pretty happy with this play. YM is still trying to push, which is interesting. My stops will be at the highs, because if it comes right back up, the whole trade thesis is out the window. Concerned here, a little bit of divergence at the bottom here on the 5 minute between ES and NQ. And take a look at it looks like defensives start off with cyclicals being strong, but now defensives has taken over. Waiting for UVXY to normalize the average there. Once it normalizes, then it should be good. Then I can have like a better understanding of what's happening. 69.75 is still the large strike. We're 10 minutes in. I'm waiting for the updated positioning. I think the updated positioning will be very telling. All right. Yeah, if we can hit 87 and hit VWAP, that would be my perfect trade. Oh, wow. Okay, so updated positioning looks quite a bit different here. So I'm going to transition over to it. We're at the low end. I'm actually happy to take it off here if we're not going to go any lower. I'm a bit worried. I'm going to take it off here. Now that I see the updated positioning, we're at the edge. 69.75 was my pivot. So hence why I'm a little bit concerned. If you had multiple positions, sure, I'd say hold it, because we'll see if we can break. But if you can see, change this a little. All right. So you can see that cluster there, 69.75. I don't want to watch my profits just disintegrate there. So I'm going to let that one go. If I had multiple positions, I would have taken it, but I would have held some and see if we can go further down towards half gap. But personally, I'm not seeing anything. 7,000 was the high. It's a very interesting level. Yeah, I'm happy with that take profit, 69.75. Yeah, I've always expressed the significance of these clusters, especially that 69.75 level, which we saw prior to market open too, as a pretty significant level. Hence why I used it as my pivot today. Anyways, transition back to the charts. Yep, there it goes. Definitely considered a long too, but now if there's enough flows, you can still blast through that 69.75 level, but we were just likely to get a large bounce off of it. Now YM's up, NQ's coming back down. Now if 69.75 came off, started coming off in the next update, I would consider. I would give it more edge for downside. You might still get the VWAP touch. Okay, YM's pulling back. NQ is trying to push up. They're doing opposite things right now. Oh, let's see what will happen now. Let me take a look at the options step. Gamma chart. Oh, it's just there's no gamma basically. We're essentially at, yes, it is slightly positive gamma, but there's not much around. YM is still pulling back. NQ standing up strong. All right, it looks like it's going to spool down here. YM's leading the way. NQ's trying to stay up strong here. Bit of divergence between ES and NQ at the lows here. We hit the 15-minute ADMA. We're likely to wick through to the VWAP. Sessions VWAP. There's the original target if it hits 87. There's still a lot of fight here. And this thing can technically go down to 69.65. Nothing pretty about this price action though. In general, we've been stuck in this incredible range. I say incredible because it's amazing that ES can stay in this range. It can pop down, pull some liquidity, and then pop right back into that 69.50, 7,000 range, which is essentially like, I think most traders would think all-time highs will be broken, but definitely not the case so far. Oh, there you go. All right, now we can get a wick towards 65. I think there's a good chance of that now, especially with the revised or the updated 950 data showing that 69.75 came off for the most part. And now the cluster actually proceeds down to 69.65. NQ is about to spool. Still haven't touched VWAP yet. There's a chance. 69.65 would be half gap and about 8 points away from here. I don't love this trade. Like, playing the downside, especially given the divergence at the lows here. 9:55. I don't see any news at 10 besides a Fed speaker. I don't love upside. Downside seems like the asymmetric play. But you have to take your shots accordingly at key low risk entries. VIX is climbing, which is interesting to see. What I do see is that it's a bit of negative gamma here that we might try to make our way into. See that dotted line? This represents 0 gamma. Running down now. All right. Interesting to see. Now the pop back right back up. Played that on a few other accounts because I needed to meet a 5-day active trade or 7-day active trading rule. That's my first trade of the week on those accounts. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, just looking at the option step chart, that's pretty much everything. Here it's trying to stay out of the negative gamma range. I mean, if we blast through, we could really run towards that gap fill. This cluster here is what's holding it all together. And we've been bouncing at every... Because the cluster is a dealer negative cluster, we've been bouncing at any time we see a positive, dealer positive strike. So for instance, 69.60 bounced. Interesting. We're at 10 o'clock here. From a technical analysis point, though, I would say that that was a breakout and retest, and we can technically move upwards from here. Positioning supports it. This positioning reflects this SPX. This SPX support here. Which happens to be the largest volume, almost the largest volume, but it's a high volume node for yesterday. And it's no coincidence that we came back here to retest. And it's 69.60. So the positioning does support technical analysis from a volume profile perspective. I think what I have to work on next is trying to hold for the larger trend. Ooh, this is very interesting. Let's see. Oh, starting to spool down now. About to get the next update. Next update shows the cluster starting to break up a little. 69.50, 69.45 likely to be the next support. Which at that point I would actually consider it a gap fill. I let that one go way too early. So what I liked about that was NFP caused a nice rocket up, test the previous day high. On NQ, and then the morning, the 9:30 open, ES and NQ broke out upwards and rejected and showed a 5-minute high volume wick, which is this. So it was a really good short. Dude, that was pretty. I definitely should have collected a lot more on that one. So just looking at the option step chart, 10 o'clock update, still active. These charts update 10-minute intervals. You can see that the price action ran through into the negative gamma section and just spooled down. And then after that, it looks like we're kind of supportive here at 45, working on the next cluster. All right, so that was a gap fill there. Amazing. Wish I had runners. Embarrassingly took profit at around 69.94, an entry of 7,004, so got 10 points. Now, gotta wonder if this leads to risk off on into tomorrow and Friday. We're at, because the weekly VIX expiration closed out at in the AM right before market open, and once that happened, the unclench happened, and it looks like a pop of VIX to move upwards is where it wanted to go. Now, from what I see, the VIX positioning shows a negative gamma position from 17. So it could have been supported at 16.5, but it didn't. Instead, it's showing a move up to, well, it's negative gamma from 17 all the way to 19, which seems to be where we're headed. So if I let's see if I can show this. All right, so just looking at this, you can see the VIX started at 17. VIX started, oh, actually, I'm going to consider a knife catch here somewhere. Hmm. $41. I can see ES running towards 69.41, 69.30. It's already blasted through the straddle low. Holy smokes. What a move. This seems like a reasonable spot to try a knife catch here. All right, anyways, popping this back on to view. VIX basically opened up just under 17. I think we were at 17.78. You can see that's basically where there's like zero speed between the 16.5 and the 17 strike. And right there, price action basically decided which way we wanted to go. If we wanted to kind of spool, not spool, but maybe work on a breakout and just grind that lower VIX section under 16.5. Ooh, this looks very promising. I'm gonna give this one a shot. See where this goes. I want to see this run to 69. Yeah, just about 69. anyways, as I was saying, so it wanted, price action decided whether we wanted to break out in the VIX and basically run through from 17 towards 19 or 18 and a half. Yeah, so the VIX decided that after the previous expiration, which is the weekly expiration, that happens on the Wednesday AM expiration. After that expired, we basically ran up on the VIX, and now we're headed towards that 19 strike for the most part. I would not want to try to knife catch anything here. Just looking at the options depth chart. I'm not seeing too much here that I like. Maybe 69.05. But other than that, I'm really not seeing much. There's the 69.41 level. That's on the daily. Or no, that's on the 4-hour chart. Let's see here. Ooh, I kind of want a knife catch here. But I won't knife catch unless I see some sort of signal or something. NQ swept its overnight, its overnight lows. Interesting spot to bounce for NQ. Let me switch back over. Ooh, the next update, which is I believe is a 1022 update on SPX positioning. You can kind of see the clusters are starting to turn up here. You can see a dealer negative strike cluster that's forming 69.20 through 69.47. Any bounce, I think I would only like it to 69.35. But there is almost no positioning here from a dealer's net positioning perspective. So this thing can still spool down towards 69.05. Yeah, so holding off on any knife catches. I can't believe I shorted at 7,004 on ES and held for 10 points. I only had one positioning, thinking that I had another chance to add later on, but this thing went down pretty fast, and I didn't add positionings or average down, or average into the position, I should say. But one of the reasons why I took profit was because of that 69.75 pivot that I had that seemed to be holding up earlier on in the morning at around like 9:40 and 9:45, that 9:40, 9:45 candle. That's where the pivot that I had noted in the bottom right hand corner there, we bounced off that pivot, and that pivot was something that you can see prior to market open, and it was also a level that you can see after market open once the data updated at 9:40. So if I go back here, and show the options depth chart, and I scroll down to 9:40, that's a 9:40 update. You can see the cluster here between 69.75 and 7,000. 69.75 is roughly where we bottomed out at 9:40 and 9:45, and we got a nice move up there for about 10 points. And then you can watch this start fading away. The next 950 update, the 69.75 gave way, and the next pivot point was probably somewhere around 69.60 and 65. So positioning supported that move down for a bounce at around 69.60, 69.65. We probably got some sort of bounce on the 5-minute. You can't really see it, but from there, the positioning just started showing a bunch of negative gamma. So like negative dealer strike all the way down. It's a huge fan. It's the reason why I'm a huge fan of this tool. From a bias perspective, I was kind of biased downside after that CPI pop, or not CPI, I should say NFP. And the reason why I was biased toward the downside was VIX expired at right before 9:30, which basically opened up the movement to happen. So we popped up and tested that pivot in the morning that I had marked out on SPX. And from there, we ended up gap filling and just beyond gap filling. So now we're sitting at around 69.15 SPX. I'd like to see it kind of try its way down here at 69.05, but the lowest we hit is 69.12. It doesn't seem like VIX is letting up. Like right now VIX may have already hit 18.97. So if that's the case, I would expect a bounce. And this bounce is pretty much supported. Yeah, so if I pull back that that VIX snapshot, this is the next Wednesday's expiration, which is the monthly expiration, which is why you have the 0.5 strikes in VIX here that's shown. So once we hit 19, so this is 20 here, 19.5, and this is 19. 19 is such a large dealer negative strike level. And right now, I seem to believe that, I guess what we're seeing is that VIX is kind of controlling that market. Because as soon as this current week's expiration expired, we basically spooled down, especially after yesterday. Yesterday seemed to have wanted to pull back. It didn't really pull back. Well, it pulled back about 40 points, but it took the entire day to make that move, and it looked very choppy. Because VIX expiration, or not, I shouldn't say VIX expiration, the weekly expiration on VIX was the next day, which is the Wednesday morning prior to open. And then once that VIX expiration expired, we were basically free to move in VIX. I think I'm going to try this. Stops at the lows. I like the 5-minute close there. High volume, or relatively high volume, I guess. It might not be a pretty play, but so be it. There's a decent move so far. I think this is just a scalp for the most part. I don't anticipate it going too far. Ideally, we get to see 4.9. $4.952. Now that trade was based primarily on the VIX there. And looking at the option step chart, it could have supported a move to 69.05. Yeah, I would like to see like 50 hit for the most part. Once VIX hit 19, there's a good chance that we were going to reject. And when VIX goes down, you can expect SPX to move up, generally speaking. We could even make a run up towards 69.60. On ES. VIX is still coming off here. The reason why I say we could hit 69.60 is value area lows there. Depending on which time frame you're watching, it could be somewhere around 69.59 all the way up to 69.61-ish. There you go. That's a decent play. That 5-minute candle was the one that suggested there was going to be a move. And there was a move. All right. And that's a good day. Yeah, that was an interesting plays for today. Yeah, it was definitely an interesting day that we read very well. We got the rejection at open after the weekly VIX expiration, which was likely holding the market together. And then once that weekly VIX expiration expired, we opened up at around 69.92, which happens to be roughly where there's like a trend line you can draw on ES there too. Flirting with the edge of a volume profile node. It just made a lot of sense to short there. So we shorted, didn't collect the entire move down, unfortunately. And then we longed off that 5-minute doji pattern. It showed up on both the ES and the NQ. And now we, if you look at the option step chart, it looks like it's negative gamma the entire way. So we basically have cluster of dealer negative strikes between 69.20 all the way up to 69.45. So this thing can spool up towards 69.45. Doji here. Makes me wonder if we're going to reject here on ES. It's a 5-minute ADMA. We're also roughly where the value area low is, because the value area low actually moved as volume increased in this area here. Just not a lot of imbalances below. I mean, we can pull back, but I'm not seeing many imbalances. Bit of divergence here between the 1040 and 1045 candles on ES and NQ. I mean, if you want to try a short, this might be it. You can have like a 6-point stop loss or something. I don't love it, because if the pullback was a new low, like we've already moved about 90 points today. So I wouldn't bet on further downside. And I don't see any imbalances that were created here, like a fair value gap of some sort. Yeah, there's a short. I would have preferred seeing some sort of imbalance here, but I don't see any. I mean, we can go back down towards 69.40 on ES on the 1-minute chart, but the imbalance had already been filled. And the imbalance that I'm referencing is the fair value gap. All right, so there's the pullback. We didn't even get 69.40. We got 69.4175. Now going back towards, going back to look at the option step chart, 69.20 would have been the low. I guess from an SPX perspective, that might have made sense. 69.20 retests and then pump back up towards 69.45. I kind of like this for more upside, to be honest, but I think the low is in for today. I'm gonna give it a shot. We're at 69.45, so about 10 points from here. Yeah, that would make sense. I'm probably gonna get, there's a good chance I get wrecked here for such a. All right, I think I'm gonna take it off right here. Maybe a little bit more. Come on. 69.45. 69.64.5. That was close. 69.44, 69.45. I think that's it for me. Traded very well today. Yeah, that was a very interesting call out on my end. Yeah, I'd say like it's a fairly productive day on SPX and options depth breakdown by strike using that tool there. This was a very great example because not only were we able to define the bottom on SPX based off of the VIX positioning, yeah, initially I wanted to play downside towards the gap fill, but the gap fill was so far that I kind of doubted it. Now, I probably should have taken a look at VIX a lot sooner, because if that was the case, I probably would have expected a run towards 19, or maybe even 18.5. And if we did go to 18.5, this is where we'd likely stop, which is the gap fill. Anyways, I would chalk it up to a learning experience. Did no harm to the account today. All good positioning, all good positionings, relatively low risk. anyways, I think I am done for today. Not gonna love anything from here. Basically gonna be in the middle of today's range. I don't see any more upside. I don't see any more downside. One last look at the options depth positioning before I go. And you can see one last look at the options depth chart. You can see that we're in that negative, we're at the top of the negative dealer strike cluster at 69, 4.5 towards 4.8. It looks like we're gonna finally break through, hit 50. And from there, who knows what we're up to. But there's definitely going to be scalping opportunities. I just don't think I would like anything at this point, especially after having such a great day. What I'll do is I'll timestamp those moments. I'll see if I can create a short off of it. And yeah, and we'll move from there. Anyways, guys, logging out now. Have a good one.